All right. So we are all very much aware that at the beginning of each day, all of the inbred, fart huffing, cousin fisting, MAGA chuds, they get their talking points. They get their talking points from like Fox and Friends, or Talking Point, I should say, because they can only handle one per day. From like Fox and Friends, or from whatever right wing media source where they get their talking point. And I just saw some neckbeard Second Amendment super patriot with his backwards baseball hat on, who trotted out today's talking point. And he was it's like you got to hand it to him, man. And you almost have to feel a little bit of empathy because you got to wonder, like, how many takes does it take them to get like the actual video that they post on TikTok? It's got to be at least a dozen, because that's a lot of words to remember. It's a lot of words to remember. And when your IQ is hovering in the mid 60s, memorizing a lot of words can be challenging. You know, it can really be challenging. But this neckbeard super patriot was walking, with his chest out. It was probably the 13th or 14th take. And I mean, my God, he was so proud of himself when he pulled this one off. He said something along the lines of, if your life was affected by the government shutdown, then you're too reliant on the government. And he smiled. The size of this guy's smile, because he finally got it. He finally got it right. He finally got it right, man. He finally got it right. Because he was just like, you could just see it in his eyes, man. He was like, I just owned the libs. I just owned the libs by spitting out that one sentence that had, like two words that had more than one syllable. And he was so proud. He was so proud. And it's like, you almost hate to kind of take away from that with these guys, man, because they really have nothing. They really have nothing. It's just like, because when they get off work at the end of the day, when they're being racist and misogynistic and bigoted with their coworkers, and they get home, and in the time that it takes them to heat up a Hot Pocket is when they go in the other room and they find their trans porn and they rub one out, and by the time they finish that, their Hot Pocket is ready. And so, he gets home, puts the Hot Pocket in, does the other thing, comes out, towels off, I guess, and then his Hot Pocket is ready, but he's got to let it cool. He's got to let it cool for a minute. Because it's like, if you've ever eaten a Hot Pocket too soon after you pull it out of the microwave, boy howdy, let me tell you, man, you're not going to have skin on the roof of your mouth for like a month. But and then it's like he sat down and he's been waiting all day, man. He even wrote it down. He wrote down his talking points so that he wouldn't forget it. And so he sat down, he ate like half of his Hot Pocket. It was too hot. It's got to cool down a little more. And, and he brushed out his beard, and he put his backwards baseball hat on, and he looked at the camera, and, there's some dramatic, like, lions, not sheep music playing in the background, and he looks at the camera, and in very dramatic fashion, he was like, if your life was affected by the government shutdown, then you're too reliant on the government. And then he stopped, And he stopped, and he was like, that was the take, man. After like 13 or 14 tries, he was like, yeah, yes, yes, that was the take. And he posts it, and he just sits back, and he's like, fuck yeah, man. I got it done, man. I got that done. I nailed it. Yeah, nailed it. And he's so proud of himself, man. He's so proud of himself. And then, you know, he posts it. And then I'm sure like 10 minutes later, you know, one of his parents calls him and they're like, you're flying back for Thanksgiving, right? And he's like, yeah, no, my flight's booked. And then he turns on Fox News and he sees Sean Duffy saying, we're canceling 10% of the flights, maybe 20% of the flights in the 40 highest traffic airports across the country. We're canceling flights. And then, and you know, he's sitting at home alone in his Barca lounger with his TV tray, with the second half of his Hot Pocket sitting there staring at him. You know, it's just staring at him. It's cool enough to eat now, you know, but the initial high that he felt from getting that final version of his talking point video done, that initial high has just been eradicated. Because he knows that the government is shut down because of Chuck Schumer. As if Chuck Schumer has ever had that level of power in his entire life. And as if he would ever actually know what to do with that amount of power. He knows that he bought a non-refundable ticket to fly halfway across the country. And the airport that he's flying out of and the airport that he's flying into is one of those 40, each one of them is one of those 40 airports. And he knows that he just spent $600 on a non-refundable ticket, and there's a really decent chance that his flight is going to get canceled or delayed to the point where he's going to miss his connection. And then he realizes. Because they're fucking stupid, but they're not that fucking stupid. Because then he realizes that he just made a TikTok about himself. He realizes that he just made a TikTok about himself, and he was so proud that he was owning the libs, when in reality, he just owned himself. And there's no number of likes, there's no number of views that's going to make up for that deep sense of despair that he's now feeling. Even though the Hot Pocket farts are coming on, and he loves nothing more than a good Hot Pocket fart, alone in his one-bedroom apartment, in his Barca lounger, with his TV tray, watching Sean Hannity. He knows that he just made a TikTok about himself. And he's unclear as to what to do with the emotions that he's now feeling, with the rage that he's now feeling. And he doesn't know how to regulate his nervous system. In fact, he's never in his entire life ever even heard the phrase, regulate your nervous system. He always thought that that had something to do with getting his butthole waxed. And he's never done that again. Because it felt kind of gay. Even though the tingly part, it kind of excited him in his nether regions. But he only did it that one time. And so he's unclear how to proceed from now. But he's happy and angry both at the same time. It's a conundrum.